What's up, fam? Coach Cam back again with another video. This workout is a pull day workout, and as you watch this, I want to discuss something that pertains to health and fitness, and that is, why do people think that if you train for muscle that you have no cardio? They assume that if you have big muscles, or just if you're lifting weights in general, that means you get gassed and get tired easily. This is not true. There's no evidence to suggest this. If you have a friend that lifts weights but gets tired very easily, you need to think about what activity are they doing that's making them tired easily, right? And they could just be very fatigued from their weight training because they weight train very hard frequently, right? So you're never fully recovered for some type of event to try to measure someone's cardiovascular fitness. So why would you assume that somebody who lifts weights has no cardio? Maybe you would see them go for a run and say, wow, you're not running very fast. You don't have very good cardio. Or see them riding a bike and say, wow, you're not like a very good bike rider. You must not have good cardio. Fill in the blank with whatever activity you want to use to measure cardio. And the truth is that if they're not training that activity, then yes, it's going to manifest as they're not very good at it, and it's going to make you think they have bad cardio because the movements don't transfer to other movements, right? If you're an elite distance runner, that doesn't make you an elite cyclist. That doesn't make you an elite swimmer, because each movement has its own nervous system pattern, its own neurological efficiency that your body is improving at. So no, don't expect somebody who lifts weights to be an amazing runner, swimmer, biker, etc. However, we must ask ourselves the question, do you need to be a good runner to have optimal health and fitness? Do you need to be a good swimmer? Do you need to be a good rower? And to me, the answer is obvious. No, you do not have to be performing at a high level at one of these very repetitive, low-intensity skill sports, right? You don't need to do a sport. If we measured everyone on how good they are at basketball and said that if you're good at basketball, that means you're healthy, then only the top NBA players would be seen as healthy. And that's what people like to do with certain sports, especially running. They like to think that, hey, if you're a good runner, that means your cardiovascular system is good, which I'm not saying it doesn't. It probably is very fit, but it mostly applies just to running. The further you deviate from running, if that's your sport of practice, the worse it's going to show, right? It's not going to carry over to everything. And when you train the muscles of your body, you do get general cardiovascular adaptations. They're just not applied to any specific sport or skill or cyclical endurance activity. So you have to know that. If we're going to test everyone on running, let's talk about VO2 max, right? Someone on Instagram who does mostly pull-ups for their training shared that they did a VO2 max test on a treadmill and they got 64 milliliters per kilogram, the metric for VO2 max, right? 64, that's very high. The average for a man is like 40, so it's definitely above average. However, the truth is that athlete also runs. So that is a confounding variable because there has been a study done. Listen to this. There's been a study done years ago on a cycling VO2 max test. What they did was they VO2 max tested the left leg only, then they VO2 max tested the right leg only, and then they had the person train only one of the legs for 8 weeks, and then they tested again and found only the leg that was trained got a higher VO2 max. How is that possible if VO2 max is supposed to be your heart and lungs and oxygen and blah, blah, blah? Well, turns out your muscles of your body, your limbs, the peripheral of your nervous system is where the adaptations take place to movements like that. And so the one leg had adapted and got more efficient at the movement, and the other leg did not. So it's not a central adaptation. It's not your heart getting bigger, your lungs getting bigger, blah, blah, blah. No. It comes down to you practicing that movement. So if you're going to do a VO2 max test on a cycle, the cyclist is going to do better. If you take a cyclist and put him on a treadmill, he's not going to have that good of a VO2 max because he's not as efficient at running because he doesn't practice running. So for this guy, he tried to make it seem like, oh, because I train body weight exercises, I have a high VO2 max. No, he also runs. I've followed him for years. He also has like an 18-minute 5K or whatever it is. And so he runs. He runs on his spare time too. He's not just doing gym workouts. So I had someone else message me on Instagram and ask me, okay, what is your definition of, like, how would you measure someone's health and fitness to say they're in good health and fitness? Is it resting heart rate? While that's a very good conjecture and a pretty good option, I actually said to him, I said, if I'm being honest, how would I measure that someone is, has health and fitness and, is fit? I would say that they need to train their muscles hard 1 to 3 times per week, and that they need to eat healthy foods and not be obese. That's really what I said. If you're not obese, you're already fitter than people who are obese. And then if you train your muscles like once or up to 3 times a week or so, that's really all it is. And I don't think that we have a standard. We don't have a way to measure it of who's fit and who's not. Because what we'll do is you'll see people online say, oh, if you can do 50 push-ups, that means you're fit. Okay, but other people who are very fit don't practice push-ups, and maybe they can't do 50 push-ups. It's just, or you can say pull-ups. Oh, you have to be able to do 12 pull-ups. Well, there's tons of people that aren't out of shape or unhealthy but can't do 12 pull-ups. So it just comes down to what you practice. But I'd say if you're training your muscles hard, you should be healthy and fit as long as your body fat percentage is lower. Not too low, but, within normal ranges, and you're eating high protein whole foods, and you're sleeping well and hydrating. I mean, that's really it. It's nothing complicated. It's nothing crazy. I would love to say, if, another guy on Instagram said, if you're in your 20s as a male, you should be able to run a sub 6-minute mile. Or else don't even talk to me about food dyes. That's what he tried to say. Well, that's not accurate. Like, you can't just measure everyone off of running because that's a very specific sport, a very specific skill. And people who are super tall or muscular and tall or whatever the case aren't going to be that good at running. Like, if you don't practice running, if you don't have the body type for it, you're not going to be good at it, period. It's a very specific sport. And if you try to be good at it, it'll either take a long time or you're going to get a lot of injuries along the way. So all this to say, train the muscles of your body as hard as you can, as often as you would like and have the availability to, and still recover and make progress. Eat whole foods, eat healthy foods, and you should be well on your way to being as healthy and fit as possible. Keep your body fat percentage lower. I'm currently cutting about 1 pound per week, not very fast, but so far so good. So hopefully you guys like the video. Like, share, comment, and subscribe.